Appreciate you tuning in today. Today, we're going to be diving into an interview with the Azra Games studio team, how and why they are diving into NFT gaming, blockchain gaming, and more, as well as their recent funding from A16z and other components that make up that game studio. As always, everything you see in this video is not financial advice. Please do your own research. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. But without further ado, I want to bring the team on. Welcome, Ken. Welcome, Sunny.
Hey,
Thanks for joining today.
Thanks,
Excited to
Easy.
talk.
Good to be here.
yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to get a little bit about your background. How you guys got into games in general, specifically crypto gaming, blockchain gaming, and what that background kind of looks like.
Sure. Sonny, you want me to start off?
Yeah, kick it off, Ken.
Yeah. So we're Azra Games, and we're a studio of really accomplished and experienced game developers. Our founder, Mark Otero, and I founded a social gaming studio way back in the very early days of Facebook games, if you remember back that far. And everyone was building super casual kind of farming type games, and he wanted to execute his dream of building more hardcore games. So he grew up playing RPGs. He was a dungeon master, and so we made an RPG and ended up doing really well. And we built another one that was quite successful. It was Mark's first collectibles and combat RPG. We bootstrapped that thing. It was just the two of us in the beginning, and we grew it up to 76 employees, and we got bought by EA. Mark stayed there for quite a few years, released several very successful titles. They pivoted us to making mobile games. It was around that time. And his last game that he made for EA was called Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. You may have heard of Star Wars, kind of a famous series of movies and television shows. Yeah, so that one, it wasn't just a great foundation for the game being built on the Star Wars intellectual property, but it was just a fantastic game. It's sort of 6 years in now. It's made $1.4 billion for EA. Still making over 100 million a year, 100 million downloads. Just a really tight game economy with a super strong community and just a bunch of really passionate players who love that game. So after Mark released that, he was completely burned out, left gaming for a while. And then just late last year, he saw the promise of blockchains and NFTs and player-owned assets. And he really sees this as being like the next revolution in games. And he looked at some of the games that were out there, and he knew he had to come in because most of them simply just aren't fun. They're kind of built around more DeFi concepts than and Ponzi-nomics than really fun gaming mechanisms. So he was just super excited to come into this space and bring something really fun with all of his experience. And so he called Sonny, who has he's a long history of entrepreneurship. He called me because we founded the studio many years ago. He called up some of the best game designers and engineers that he knew, and he just very quickly cobbled together a fantastic team of super experienced game developers and entrepreneurs to bring a truly fun gaming universe to the blockchain. So that's why we're here. I was actually floating around in Solana since last September. I minted a project in January, actually. So yeah, I'm a bit of a DJ myself, Monkey DAO, and so
okay. So you hold an SMB?
I got an SMB. Yeah. Just bought a bear yesterday for my first bear. Actually.
Oh, nice. Okay, there you go. That's awesome. See, that's a huge thing that I like too, is seeing people just in the space and comfortable with some of that stuff. It's tough to be familiar with Solana, blockchain, crypto in general, unless you own the assets. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, I've actually gotten several people at the company kind of turned into semi-degens now. So, it's addicting as we're aware. So yeah, that's why we're here. We're here to bring great games to the blockchain, and we feel like it's time for a studio like ours to enter this space and bring things to the next level.
And I love to hear that. It's good to see. I mean, the experience. You mentioned over $1 billion in return or income there. I guess maybe income return on the Star Wars game. Is that all in-game purchases, in-game assets?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a free to play game. Yeah, it's a free to play game.
Wow.
Game. And to put that into perspective, there's two things that are important context there. That was Mark's 8th combat and collectibles RPG. So if you think about a musician. So I have a nickname for Mark. We call him the Mozart of game design. And if you think about a composer, right, what do? They start and they build their first symphony. It's okay, it's pretty good. And they build their second symphony. It's a little better, right? And then the third, and the third, they understand how the violin parts work or how the timpanis work. Okay, now it got better. And then the fourth one, okay, now it's heavier because they've got some sopranos singing and they've got a choir. They added some things like that. So that's a good analogy for his evolution. Both Ken and I have known Mark for 15 years plus and watched him evolve as a game maker. And so what you saw with the culmination of all his skill sets with Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes was a game that ended up, bringing together a lot of the codes he was trying to crack. I mean, really just, that whole 10,000 hour rule of like figuring things out as you build one product and then, say, oh, I wish I would have done this way. Oh, next one. Sort of like making your symphony. And if you took, all of EA's mobile game revenue for every game other than Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, that one game eclipses that. So that puts it in real perspective.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear too. So I mean, my real question from that is, it sounds like there's certainly game experience, especially on the mobile aspect. So when it comes to crypto gaming, the big thing for me is, how do we onboard people without really them realizing that they're even using blockchain? Like we saw a ton of success with Step In, which is a move to earn, but they did such a good job with the onboarding. So that's what I guess I'm really curious about. Having something like the Star Wars Galaxy game where there's a ton of users, $1 billion in potential revenue options from a mobile game. How do you exactly like plan to kind of onboard those people? I know that's kind of a tough and loaded question, but I'm just curious, like, what the hope is there? Because that's like, for me, the hardest part about games is getting that onboarding, getting the people to buy into something that's not just fun, but to them, it doesn't feel like work and it doesn't feel like they're only doing this to earn something at the end,
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the importance to the answer to this question is the timing of this interview that we're having right now. And I'll start, and then Ken can kind of fill in. To your question, which is, how exactly do we plan to onboard users? At this point, we don't have that dialed yet. We're still working on that. And what I mean by that is the very specifics of the technology stack that we're going to be using and how we're going to be, integrating and introducing those pieces in what stage of the funnel. We just haven't, we've roadmapped and architected some of it, but we haven't built that yet. So that's to come. But philosophically, what I can tell you is that, we want to try to take the best of free to play and the best of game experience to create an onboarding, experience that is seamless and is smooth and basically is a great user experience. I mean, that's our goal, is that, we're sort of following this halo that there are a lot of people who believe gaming is actually going to be the onboarding for the next billion crypto users, right? That crypto's mainstream, but it's, if you took the 8 billion people on Earth, well, 3 billion of them play games. So now there's a lot of support of resources behind game developers to say, hey, build great experiences on the blockchain, because that's actually going to be the entry point for a 19-year-old, a 27-year-old, a 44-year-old to come into a great entertainment experience or immersive experience that actually ends up onboarding them into the world of crypto. So, we believe in that, by the way. We think that can happen. Now, look, where we build, what we build on top of, how we write, the actual gameplay experience, that gets into super specific details, all of which is, under construction right now. It's important in the context of this. Ken and Mark and I came together January 12th. So
yeah,
everybody
still
watching,
new, still fresh.
Yeah. Note the date of this interview. And in that time, we've accelerated a lot of company building and team building and starting to get our concept together. But if you look back at really great game projects, they take 2, 5, 7 years. And then you throw blockchain and Web3 in there, it gets a little more interesting. So we're at the stage right now where we know what we want, which is really what you described. We want to have a really great experience onboarding into a really fun game, or as Mark says, let's build a fucking great game. That's our mission. That's our goal.
I love it.
And yeah, and then, you know, make sure that, you know, all those layers and pieces work for our gameplay. They work for us, you know, and how the game designed. You know, one thing that I think is important too is that relates to the onboarding is that whether it's onboarding or the economy, we get asked a lot about tokens, the characters, in-game assets, NFTs. Look, these are all going to be based around the gameplay. That's one thing that I've watched, and I'm watching the game design team, you know, do. I run the operations and sort of run the company piece, but I just love seeing the game design team go do what they do, and it's about gameplay first.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest thing, and one of the clearest things for me is like when it comes to that aspect, getting good gameplay, like you said, not easy. This is anywhere from a 2 to 7 year rollout, and I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't account for, especially for something that's so new and so fresh like blockchain gaming. It's why these things they don't happen overnight. These home runs don't hit right away. They take some time to grow, build, and develop. And I guess that's actually kind of into my next question. You have some great backing from some incredible companies. A16z is huge into the crypto space, just announced another billion coming in for investments. How did your team get put in touch with them? I believe it was so far the first, and I know you were kind of talking to me about not having a blockchain definitively. You're going to be across multiple chains potentially. Just kind of having that touch and what seems like it might be the first Solana-backed project to an extent, or at least the first one that was considering that blockchain. So I'm curious how that relationship formed, what that looks like, and really, I guess, what direction or hand in the direction they may have.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So how do we get? I'll start with the beginning of that. How did we get introduced to Andreessen Horowitz, and how did we end up there, and why? Is really the question. So, you know, like I said, Mark, Ken, and I, and a handful of other folks came together mid-January. That's really when Azra Games was born. And as we were building Azra Games, you know, one of the things that is unique for us is we all have a lot of experience, as you can probably see by the color of my hair, and Ken's beard actually is getting there as well. You know, we've all done a lot, and we're a fully doxed team, so you can go, you know, check us out. But we've all done a lot in life and in this stage of our lives. And so as we started to build a company and we thought about, okay, let's stand this company up and let's do the work. You know, what do we want to build? One thing that we decided upon was we want to build a really durable, long-lasting company. And I'm not just saying that as a buzz term, like we really do. We want to build something great, take our time, put out amazing games, amazing products, build a real company culture, you know, build a team that really, really grooves together and just loves each other and works together and you know, has trust and vulnerability and just build an awesome company for the long term. And so we started to use that as a guiding principle for a lot of the decisions we would make. For example, we had made the decision early on that while a lot of blockchain projects, you know, have no lockup period, we're going to lock ourselves up for quite a long time. You know, so we're in it with the community and in it with any investors we take on. So just decisions like that. Okay. So what happened was we thought, okay, maybe we'll do a private token sale, raise a few bucks, and we're going to bootstrap this company. You know, Mark and I and Ken and the folks will kind of self-fund it, and we'll just, you know, grind it out and bootstrap it. And that was our plan. And a very, very dear friend of Mark's, and now a friend of all of ours, a guy named Michael Chang, he's pretty prolific in the games industry. He's been in the industry for quite a long time. He got wind that Mark Otero was returning to gaming and that we were building a company. And he asked us, hey, have you built a deck? I'd like to see it. So we hadn't built a deck. And so Mark put together a deck telling our story. And we worked on it and we showed Michael Chang. And after a lot of you know, criticism, because he's known for that, he got us in better shape. And he said, hey, I'd love you to show this to a couple friends of mine. So he put us in front of a few friends, and he was expecting, here's what happened. He was expecting those friends to tear us apart. Okay. Because like Ken said, you know, Mark had sort of been out of the game space for a few years. Not only did these pretty prolific people not tear us apart, they all ended the conversation by saying, hey, can we invest in this company? and we weren't raising money, and it was like, okay, well, that's kind of an interesting reaction. So Michael said, hey, let's put you in front of some investors. I know games. It takes a lot of resources and time to build really great games. Let's put you in front of some investors. And so we did. And what happened was we found ourselves in front of just some really great candidates and investors. We did a few Zooms, and then we went to DICE in February. And through a string of connections, we found ourselves in a hotel room with a laptop pitching, and Ken was there. We were pitching Jonathan Lai and Robin Guo from Andreessen Horowitz, what we would find out was for their first games fund. And so we had a 30-minute pitch. We showed them our story, and not a lot of reaction. And we kind of left that meeting thinking, okay, that was an interesting meeting. Like, I don't think he liked us, because we were getting a lot of buzz.
Oh, man.
We were getting all these meetings with people saying, hey, I want to invest. And he was just sitting there, and he just asked us a few questions. And then he said, okay, thanks, guys. That's it. Time's up. It's time to go. We went, okay.
That was it. Just right out the door. Just, all right, thanks.
Yeah. Next company's coming in. I mean, this is Andreessen Horowitz. They're seeing because on the way in, we saw a company walking out, and then as we're walking out, another company's coming in. And and it wasn't negative. It was just kind of like,
no, it was just like, it's business. It's business as usual.
Yeah, exactly. It was like not a lot of body language. And it was just like, okay, that was a trip. And so, the funny part of that too, is we left that meeting, jammed back to my room, and we do a Zoom with Soul Big Brain. By the way, I've seen Soul Big Brain in person. He's a real person, not a little NFT. And he goes on the spot, Soul Big Brain goes, oh, this is so awesome. I never see projects this awesome. I'm in. So we're like, whoa, no reaction from A16, the biggest NFT, Solana, the Solana whales in on the spot, like within like 5 minutes. And so we're kind of like, okay, hey, it's okay. It's Web3. We don't know what's going to happen. So we go on. And then what happened is we ended up reconnecting with Jonathan a day or so later. And we ended up having some really good discussions with him, his team, James Gwertzman, some of the other folks, Ariana Simpson on the team. And we got to understand their philosophy on how and why they invest. And then we sort of got to understand what Games Fund One was, what the new crypto fund is all about. And I'll tell you, a week later, Mark and I and Michael went down to their HQ in the Valley, and we had breakfast. And over breakfast, we talked about what we want and what we're trying to build. They talked about their philosophy, which is really everything you're hearing with all the interviews on them or reading about them, about the 10-year outlook. It's very, very true, and there's science to back that up. And it just felt like a really good home for us. And over some eggs Benedict, we shook on a deal right there. That was it, man.
It had to have been the food, had to have been the food that sealed the deal, right?
Yeah, exactly. We split breakfast. We paid for our own breakfast, but that's not true. John bought us breakfast, but yeah, it was really cool. It was pretty heavy. I mean, these guys are, when you see all these lists of diamond hands and they're at the top, it's no BS. I mean, they are legit.
And it's just crazy the reactions you got from both parties there too. Like Big Brain getting a Big Brain cosign is crazy. Like
crazy.
In the soul space, we're so aware of that. Like when he tweets something specific about a project, that word is bond. Like that holds value. And to see advisor, or I forget what his title is in his bio, that has Azra Games, immediately I was like, okay, I'm a diehard Big Brain guy. I love what he puts out content wise. I need to reach out to the team. I got to learn more. And then hearing people like Shill and Villain Alexander reach out and say, dude, you got to talk to these guys. Like this team is legit. They have backing from the right people. And what's funny is right before I found your project, a few of the people that I traded on Ethereum NFTs with reached out and were like, are there any A16z backed Solana projects? I was racking my brain, trying to think of one. And then sure enough, what do I know? I see your Twitter bio and it says right there. And I was like, this is wild. Like this all just finally lined up. And it's just wild to see that their response was like, all right, it's business, next pitch. And then you have Big Brain, who knows the space better than anyone and just as good as the next person, being like, this makes sense. This is the one. So this is awesome to hear. And it's hilarious how stuff just kind of comes to fruition. But then I guess I am a little bit curious about the roadmap here. So you note this summer is going to be blockchain selection. So kind of curious what that might entail. You had mentioned it's a game studio. So there's going to be more than one game. There's going to be multiple NFTs across different ecosystems. It sounds like games themselves. this is all encompassing from a studio perspective. Makes total sense.
Yep.
The blockchain selection piece, I guess what's kind of leaning where and how is it at the moment? It seems like it's going to be on Solana, but I'm curious what that might entail and kind of what that rollout and plan to kind of make a formal announcement might even look like from a 10,000 foot view and a 3-month too early view.
Yeah, I'll start. And it's a great flag. So let me go back in time too, and then I'm going to get right into the root of your question. Ken and our marketing director, Jeff Belante, and I were sitting in San Francisco on February 8th. So we're a 3-week-old, literally a 3-week-old company. No joke. Maybe 3.5 weeks old. And we were talking about building the company and building our game and the product. Ken had just come out of minting on Solana the Infungibles. So he's talking about his experience. My experience has been in acquiring crypto. And I had never built on that. And one of the things we talked about was building our community. And we made a decision sitting in WeWork on Montgomery Street in San Francisco that day, because we talked about, like you said, we're a pretty experienced team. We talked about how we can build our community. Do we want to manufacture it? Do we want to, juice it with paid? Do we want to do all these gimmicks and tricks? And we sat there and we said, you know what? Let's start a Discord. Let's start an Azra Games Twitter handle. We're already all people in social media, and let's build in public and be organic. Just straight up, we just said, let's just build in public and be organic, and that's what we've done since day one. And we launched on February 16th. We launched our Discord. There was 6 of us in there total. The same day we did a Twitter handle. There was 1 follower, yours truly.
There we go.
For like 4 days. And then, the weekend came and then Ken hits me and goes, dude, we got 27 followers. Holy, what's going on? I think somebody found us. Like, we don't even know what's going on. I'm like, this is good. And we all started talking about what we're doing. And it was really basic stuff like, hey, we got a piece of art, or, hey, we talked to someone today. It was really simple stuff, just the genesis of building a Web3 product. And one of the things that we wanted to do was take the community along with us. This reminds me, I'm an older dude, so I lived through Web 1 in my 20s, and I had a company. I had my own startup back then, and it reminds me of those days where everything was unknown, everything was uncertain. The internet, it's a fad, it's a trend, it's a scam. Remember those days? I mean, that's what it was like. You'd see on like big
physical newspaper, the back would say the internet is a fad, and like bold letters.
Yes. Yeah. We all remember what Blockbuster, this internet thing will never work. I mean, Borders books, on and on. Right. So that's like where we're at. And I remember some of the coolest companies back then, and even in Web 2, the community is a big part of that journey. So we're lucky enough to be old enough to say, you know what, that's the way we're going to go about it. We're not going to manufacture a bunch of bullshit and gimmicks. We're going to build our company in public and have the community be a part of our journey. Okay. So I wanted you to have that context and backdrop. And here's why. Selecting a blockchain, we're a game studio that knows how to build games. Selecting a blockchain has been probably the hottest, most debated, most discussed topic of our entire studio. I mean, the number of cycles and the number of gray hairs it's put on Ken's beard, I mean, it's thousands, okay? Thousands. Just because it's an interesting thing. And here's what we discovered. Number one, the blockchain, it doesn't have a perfect solution for a game studio yet. Okay. There is no perfect solution. There's only trade-offs. No. That's a statement that I've heard from multiple places, and I've now adopted that at this point in time, there's only trade-offs. So you have to really think about what trade-offs are important to you. Number one. Number two, and here's a little alpha for you guys. I'm hoping to publish this. I want to get a little bit more input on it. But
let's go.
I have a personal thesis, and I don't want to offend any people who create blockchains like Anatoly or anybody like that. But let's assume two things. Number one, in the future, blockchains are going to be perfect. Okay, in the future, they're going to be perfect. No downtime. They function. You can build on top of them. Lots of tools. They're all going to be perfect. Lots of documentation, and they're going to be plumbing underneath the floor that our users don't really care about. Back to your onboarding question, that the devs and the content creators build on top of it. It becomes a vital piece of infrastructure for your company. That's just a a general idea of a thesis. Look, let's debate, flame me on Twitter if you want. I get it. But let's talk about it. That's just where my head's at right now. Okay, so if we think about those things right now, as a studio for us, we do want to release this year. I see in the chat someone's asking, when's our PFP mint? Right now, our plan is July. We're going to do our first Genesis Explorers in July. Our PFPs, or we call them Play Forever passes. Ooh, drop that right here too.
I like that.
Okay, so if we do that, we have to think hard about like, what does that user experience look like for our players and for our customers? That's really the lens we're looking through, and that's why we're having so much internal discussion about it. And so, so back to your question, yes, it's on our roadmap. We do need to select a blockchain so we can hit our roadmap. We're very, very, very close. We've always said from day one, if you go back and listen to any of the AMAs, that we're polyamorous. We want to build multiple games on multiple chains. We also envision a world where our PFPs and our in-game assets from one game can be ported to other games on other chains. I mean, that's the sort of utopia that we all hope.
It's a multi-chain environment. That's what everyone wants. People want a multi-chain world. And I think it's inevitable longer term. Like right now, it's still blockchain supremacy and who's going to take the lead. But overall, I think everyone agrees the inevitable end-all be-all is going to be no one knows what chain they're truly on from a user standpoint, but behind the scenes, that's what's going to be dictating that.
Yeah, we like to say that when we announce a blockchain, it's not so much selection; it's about blockchain announcement. It's going to be our first blockchain.
That makes a ton of sense.
We don't see a future where we're just only on one blockchain. There's no way you can predict the future of crypto. And as Sonny said, it's all eventually going to be something like underground plumbing, and we're gonna, we're focused on the best user experience. Yeah,
under the floor, and I think it's true. I think it's a long ways off. I know reality, right? But we want to build a long-term company, and I think even we got lucky enough to have a call with Anatoly, which went long, like hour plus, and it was a great discussion. Yeah, it was awesome, dude. It was super awesome and really good dude. I mean, he's a dever. He's an engineer, man. He was literally like squashing bugs while we're on the Zoom. He's like, "Hey guys, can you hold on? I got a ticket here that I got to deal with." It was like, this is kind of cool to watch. I feel like I'm watching, Zuck build Facebook or something. It was really cool. So, it was dope. And so, I think that, those folks, they, as cool as they keep their lids, they're dealing with the craziness more than we are. And they want what I'm probably espousing, which is they want this perfection of this infrastructure layer that is really solid for devers to go build on. That's always up, always works, has transactions, always secure. It's a ways off. I know it's a ways off. And so we're just trying to make sure that we, do the right thing for our community. We've got to build a great game that has a great experience, and we're trying to understand all the trade-offs. We've been very open about our learnings as well, just like the rest of the world. We're all learning. Things are changing all the time. And so far we're friends with everybody, and we're trying to just make the right choice for, like Ken said, what is our first chain experience going to be like?
Yeah, I mean, that makes the most sense, to be honest. Like it's pretty clear that as a studio, you're not going to stop at one game. The goal here is to obviously create multiple ecosystems and environments, games, and just kind of these economies, I want to say, but it's not a full economy, like an entire kind of game world is probably a better way to put it.
Universe. We call it universe. We're actually,
universe. There we go. I'm sitting here trying to think of what it is. Universe. Yeah, dude. Exactly.
That came out of, funny enough, that came out of our lore. So here's a little teaser I can give you. We have this brilliant lore writer named Kathleen, working with the rest of the game team. And we had a company on site a couple weeks ago, and we've been working on the lore. We get little pieces of our story, and she presented the lore to the entire studio. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is just, I don't want to overpromise, but dude, it was so freaking awesome. Like we were all jumping up, freaking out, because she painted a universe, and like even the most hardcore nerdiest gamers on our team were like, oh my God, then you could do this, and then this planet could happen here, and then this could happen, and that will be
It's a full story. It paints
dude,
this. That's how people relate.
yes,
It's just like when you had created the Star Wars game from Ken's perspective. People bought into the story before the game, and that's what makes people feel attached because there becomes characters and people and places
right.
and all the different kind of combinations of things that make up that universe that you then kind of feel yourself in. So the lore is huge, especially for something that's going to be that much bigger. And I mean, even just grabbing some images from your Twitter and taking a look at some things, you've already started. I mean, I like how it looks. The idea behind it all, an RPG style game, I think that fits in perfectly for kind of the NFT aspect, because assets in an RPG game, you're constantly equipping, de-equipping, changing the loadouts, that whole nine. So I like the mentality from this. I guess the other thing I'm kind of interested in here from that perspective is I know that the blockchain is up in the air for what the first one's going to be. But then, I mean, from a gameplay perspective, is it largely going to be based on the assets and items that are going to be the NFTs? Is it going to be things that are required? I mean, the currency in the game will probably be a token, I assume, from gamified components and mechanics. But I guess I'm curious, like, from a Web3 standpoint, is everything in the game going to be an NFT? Like, how in depth are you going to be bringing that part of it into the game itself?
So there are going to be quite a few on-chain assets. Not all of them will be. This is going to be a complex economy with a lot of different levers that we can balance. And we plan to have on-chain assets from the very beginning, both NFTs and tokens that will be tradable. We're not going to be one of those games that awards a single DEX tradable token that might peak and
Pump,
then
dump, move. Yeah.
Everybody leaves. Yeah, this is not a pump and dump game. So we have a lot of experience balancing complex free-to-play economies, and those are super tricky to get right. And so we're bringing all of those learnings into Web3 in a way that almost no other Web3 studio has to create a more open economy where these assets actually can be traded in a balanced way. So some of them are going to be in-game only. Some of them will be, fungible tokens. People even talk about semi-fungible tokens now, and then some will be NFTs. So we're going to have all of that in the game, and a lot of it will be tradable. There will be ways to earn yield as a result of owning our PFPs. There will be farmers, and there will also be collectors and purchasers who want to get more powerful by buying them and doing upgrades.
Yeah, and it's good. That's kind of how you keep the game flowing, is there has to be things that incentivize not withdrawing the assets, obviously. That's where we've seen a lot of the success now, is more incentivization to keep things in the ecosystem for whatever gameplay and kind of adding to it. So, I mean, you definitely have experience with that, Ken, coming from mobile games and things like that that are especially free to play. The entire incentive is to drive engagement and not make that user feel that they have to pay, but realize if they do, they might have an added experience. So the mentality and the thought process makes a lot of sense. The mobile aspect is the one thing that I've always found to be like one of the closest ways that I think crypto gaming can kind of align, because those games are almost all free to play. So I guess the other thing here is taking a look at some of the roadmaps and the phased build outs, things like that. Up to this point, we are right around through phase one, starting into phase two. What's been some of like the difficulties, I'd say, coming from something this net new, but that's already gained a ton of steam, a ton of eyes on it, a ton of traction, compared to, I guess, some other things that you've worked in or been around? I guess, what has been some things that have been difficult or that you've had to kind of work through when it comes to Azra?
Well, I mean, I can say, and I'm sure Sonny will have something to add to this as well, but it's a very different process of launching a Web3 product where you build this community first. Whereas in Web 2, you work for a long time in secret on something, and then you announce it right before it launches, and you try to build the community as you're bringing them all into the game, and you want them to interact and form clans and guilds and rely on each other and prompt each other to spend in the game as a result of collaboration and competition. But here you actually start building this community way in advance, and they're waiting. And this is not a profile picture project, so we can't just roll something out in 2.5 months and then promise a merch drop later or airdrop, or we're going to do a token next month or something. We can't do that. We're building a game. It does take a long time, and so it's a much slower process. So we have to try to keep our community engaged and interested and growing as we lead up to this NFT drop, and then the things that come after that, the gamification of the NFTs and the game. So the timeline is completely flipped. And I think from my perspective, since I've been running the community with my team, like that's been an interesting challenge, and I've learned a lot doing that. And Sonny may have some things to add to that as well.
Yeah, I'll add to that. It's a great question, by the way. Echo what Ken said. I would echo and add to color on what Ken said, is that that's also kind of the fun. It's invigorating for some mobile entrepreneurs like us. You have to rethink the way you launch and do things. That's been kind of fun. I'd say one of the biggest difficulties has been that the ecosystem around Web3 is just very immature. And when I say immature, I don't mean like personality. What I'm talking about is it reminds me of, let's go back to Web 2. When we were building marketplaces early on, everybody was measuring things that didn't matter. So in the early days of marketplaces, let's say you were, I don't know, doing, laundry service or food delivery or whatever kind of marketplace you were doing, or social media or whatever. What did you measure back in 07, 08, 09? You measured number of likes, number of followers. Remember those days? That was a long time ago. And then what happened is the ecosystem got more mature, and you had things like segment, amplitude, and particle, AppsFlyer, where you could actually measure data that mattered for your business. Meaning you can measure like actual behaviors of users. You can start to understand your users better. You can retarget users. You could focus on higher value users with data. So that didn't come about till, we're talking 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, right? Where you got these powerful ecosystem software players that content developers could use to help build a better, ecosystem themselves. What we're discovering here technology-wise is that, and this goes back to blockchain, is that a lot of the tools are disparate. A lot of the tools that we envision aren't built yet. Some of the tools are built, but they don't quite do what we want them to do. There's a ton of new tools all the time, so we spend a lot of cycles just studying and uncovering new tools. So when we look at sort of the technology stack on how we want to build, we're really in day zero. As far as good fun games go, we're building a real game, a universe, right? This isn't just a quick like play to earn thing where you just push a button and
an idle to earn. You click a button, come back 6 hours later, and rinse repeat.
Exactly. Like we want to take people on a real good journey and let them have either a passive experience they want to do or an active experience, or we've got some really neat ideas around how the gameplay will go. But there's going to be loops that take you on a journey. So the underlying technology there is definitely a challenge.
And that's interesting to hear. I mean, I feel like that's been kind of the general consensus the last few days, with the network going up and down and having its delays and issues. But to your point, I think longer term, it's all the plumbing that's behind the scenes that people won't even realize in due time. I think it's just a sign that we're still so early on it. And I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to a game itself. The game's early. Gaming in general, blockchain gaming, is extremely early. We've only seen 1, 2, maybe 3 that have really taken off, and it's been tough to see what's been sustainable. So, I mean, I'm really excited for what's to come with Azra Games. You guys have a ton of experience and knowledge, which is awesome. It's a huge kind of nice change of pace for some of the projects and things that I've looked in previously that are a lot of times first-time people and first-time users. So I know that there's a ton of interest. People have reached out to me about the project. I appreciate you both taking some time today to talk to me about it. I wanted to see, was there anything else you guys wanted to cover in the last few minutes here, or any extra alpha you might be able to share with the audience before we kind of wrap up?
I'll just say, I'll let Ken share some alpha, but as far as I would say, just thank you for having us on. Thanks for supporting the project. Thanks to all the community who are supporting the project. Stay tuned. We are firmly focused on making a great fucking game. That's what we're focused on.
That's clear, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, we're gonna deliver, man. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I'll be following along. I'm so excited. Yeah, Ken, what's going on? I'm excited to hear what you might have. A little bit of alpha. If you can share some.
So we've got a light paper coming out for this Genesis Explorer NFT drop. It's impending. We're trying to get some of the things moving on it. So some of the charts are going to have some animation in them and stuff like that. But I'll just tell you, we have a lot of people in our studio who've read. We have like several people in the studio who've read over 100 light papers for various game projects and NFT projects. and everyone pretty much agrees that this is the best one they've seen. So we worked really hard on it. Look for that like quite soon. I don't want to say within 1 week, but not much longer than that. So that's the best alpha I can have. Like I can have for you today is
Ken, there's people in the Explore Studio chat asking for whitelist. I don't know if you want to like give some love or what.
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to toss some, we can give some in the Discord if you're feeling a little generous. Maybe do a little giveaway in the Nifty Discord for some Azra Games whitelist spots if you don't mind.
Come on, Ken, do it, bro.
Here's my idea. I'm gonna give 3 to give away in your Discord as you wish. Okay. And I'm gonna give away 3 right now to those of you who can find our Discord and go in and say Easy sent
Nifty.
me. So the first
Easy
3
sent
people
me. There you go.
Who go into our general chat and say Easy sent me. The first
like
3.
that.
Yeah. Okay. Good luck to you all. Thank you.
Let's go. I appreciate you both. Ken, Sonny, it's been awesome to have you both on stream. I'm excited for what's to come with Azra Games. I can't thank you both enough. I'm positive we'll stay in touch and keep talking. I'll be following the journey. Excited for what's to come with everything. Appreciate you both for taking the time today. It's been amazing.
Appreciate you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Absolutely. And to everyone watching, I appreciate you all for tuning in. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Toss Azra Games a follow on Twitter. It's well worth it. They're constantly posting stuff about the game, the project, everything else. Join the Discord. Tell them Easy sent you, and we'll see what happens there. So appreciate you both.
Might give a bonus fourth whitelist. You never know.
You never know. Appreciate you both. Catch you guys soon.